You won't believe what happened when I refused to let a complete stranger borrow my pool for her party. Imagine this. You're just enjoying a quiet weekend at home, ready to relax, when someone shows up at your door with an outrageous request. That's exactly what happened when this woman, let's call her Karen, came knocking. She wasn't just asking for a favor, she was demanding I let her use my pool for her entire party, without any prior notice or permission. At first, I thought she was joking. I mean, who does that? But nope, she was dead serious. She insisted that it was a huge deal for her party and that I should just let her use it. When I said no, she didn't take it well. In fact, things escalated quickly. What started as a simple refusal turned into something way crazier than I ever expected. Next thing I know, she's on the phone with 911, claiming that I was being unreasonable and that I was the one causing a scene. How did it get to this point? What was really going through her mind? You won't believe the drama that followed. Stick around to find out what happens when Karen's demands turn into a full-blown emergency situation and how it all ends up going down. So, let me set the scene for you. I live in a pretty quiet neighborhood. It's one of those places where everyone keeps to themselves and you don't really expect any drama. My house has a decent-sized pool, but I don't exactly throw huge parties or entertain often. It's just there for me and my family to enjoy on lazy afternoons. One afternoon, I'm outside, enjoying the sun and sipping my iced tea when I see this woman walking towards my yard. She looks to be in her late 40s, maybe early 50s, dressed in a way that screamed trying too hard for a casual Sunday. She introduces herself as Karen and goes straight into it, saying that she's throwing a big celebration for her daughter's birthday and that she needs a pool for the event. Now, here's where it gets weird. She doesn't even ask nicely. She just assumes that I'll say yes, as if I'm obligated to let her use my private space for a big party full of strangers. I tell her I'm not comfortable with the idea. My pool isn't a public swimming spot, and I don't know her, let alone the people she plans to invite. But Karen isn't hearing any of it. She starts acting like I'm the one being unreasonable, insisting that it's no big deal and that I should just be a good neighbor. That's when she starts to get more aggressive, demanding my pool like I'm supposed to hand it over, no questions asked. What happened next? Well, things took a turn that I never could have predicted. At this point, I was already getting uncomfortable, but I still tried to keep my cool. I told Karen that it wasn't personal, but my pool wasn't meant for parties. There were safety concerns, insurance issues, and honestly, it just didn't feel right. But instead of backing off, she doubled down. She started listing off all the reasons I should let her use it. She claimed she'd thrown pool parties before, that she knew how to handle everything, and that my neighbors would think I was being selfish. She even mentioned how the other houses on the street had nicer pools, so why couldn't I just be a decent person and help her out? It felt like she was manipulating me, trying to guilt-trip me into agreeing. Then she hit me with something that threw me off completely. She said, "Do you know how much this party means to my daughter? You're going to ruin her special day if you don't let us use your pool." It was as if she was weaponizing her daughter's happiness to make me feel bad. I wasn't buying it, though. I could tell this wasn't about her daughter or a special occasion. It was about Karen wanting what she wanted, and she wasn't used to being told no. I tried to stay firm and told her again that I wasn't going to let her use my pool. But just when I thought she'd finally leave, she pulled out her phone and dialed 911. I was stunned. Why was she calling the police? She actually told the dispatcher that I was being difficult and that I was refusing to cooperate. In that moment, it felt like everything had completely spiraled out of control. She was now dragging the authorities into a situation that was, to me, completely unnecessary. But there was no turning back now. This was only the beginning of the madness. As Karen spoke to the 911 operator, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was exaggerating everything, making it sound like I was some sort of threat, and I could tell the dispatcher wasn't buying it either. I heard her say, "Yes, she's refusing to let me use her pool for my daughter's birthday party. She's being completely unreasonable and uncooperative. I think she might be hiding something. Hiding something. I was just standing there in my own yard, trying to have a peaceful day. It was absurd, and I couldn't figure out where she was going with this. I started to panic a little, but I didn't want to show it. The last thing I needed was to look like I was guilty of something. I kept thinking, asterisk, this can't be happening, asterisk. The whole situation was becoming more and more surreal. As she kept talking to the dispatcher, I noticed her eyes darting around, as if she was making sure someone was nearby to back her up. But there was no one. The street was empty, and it was just the two of us. After what felt like an eternity, Karen hung up and turned to me with a smug look on her face. "The police are on their way. You'll see. Everyone will understand how unreasonable you're being," she said, as if this was a game she was playing. My heart was pounding in my chest. The idea that the police were coming over something so ridiculous was crazy. But it wasn't just about the pool anymore. It felt like she was trying to make me the villain in my own life, and I had no idea how far she was willing to take it. I was standing there, frozen, just trying to figure out what I could possibly say to get out of this mess. Karen seemed so confident, as if she knew exactly how this was going to go down, and that made the whole thing even more unnerving. I wasn't just worried about the police showing up now. I was worried about what kind of reputation this would leave me with in the neighborhood. I wasn't the one causing the drama, but Karen sure made it look that way. And with every passing second, I could feel the tension building, the uncertainty creeping up on me. What would happen when the police actually arrived? Would they believe her or me? And how far would Karen go to make sure she got what she wanted? Just as I was starting to feel like I might lose control with the situation, the sound of sirens echoed in the distance. My heart skipped a beat. The police were really coming. I tried to steady myself, telling myself that this was all just a misunderstanding and that everything would be fine once they got here. But deep down, I had a sinking feeling that this wasn't going to be as simple as just explaining the situation to an officer. Karen, on the other hand, was standing there smugly, as if she had already won. "They'll be here any minute now," she said with a sleek grin. "You'll see. They'll make you understand what's at stake here." And just as the sirens grew louder, I noticed something strange. Karen wasn't looking at me anymore. Her attention had shifted to something behind me. I turned around to see a man walking toward us. He was tall, wearing a suit, and carrying a briefcase. I didn't recognize him, but there was something about him that seemed off. As he got closer, Karen's whole demeanor changed. That confident, smug look was replaced with something almost like fear, but she quickly composed herself. "Is everything okay?" the man asked, his voice calm but firm. Karen immediately walked over to him and whispered something I couldn't hear, but I could see her gesturing toward me. It was like she was trying to explain herself, but there was an urgency in the way she was talking. The man nodded, then looked directly at me. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his tone more serious than I expected. Karen didn't give me a chance to answer. She jumped in, saying, "This woman refuses to cooperate. She's trying to ruin my daughter's birthday, and now the police are involved." But the twist came when the man suddenly turned to Karen, his expression shifting into something that made my blood run cold. "Karen," he said in a low voice, "you know this isn't how we handle things." It was like a switch had flipped. Now, Karen was the one on the defensive, and the man's presence was making her uneasy. I had no idea who he was, but something told me that whatever was happening, it was far more complicated than just a pool party. I felt the tension rise even higher. Was this man some kind of authority figure in Karen's life? Did she have more power than I realized? And why did he seem so prepared to shut her down? The police were almost here, and now I had a feeling the drama was about to escalate even further. Just when I thought things couldn't get any stranger, I realized there was a bigger story unfolding, and I was caught right in the middle of it. The tension in the air was so thick, I could hardly breathe. The man, who I now realized was some kind of lawyer or advisor, stood between Karen and me, his eyes scanning the situation like he was piecing together some hidden puzzle. I was still processing everything, my brain working overtime to make sense of it. I had just about figured out that Karen's story wasn't what it seemed when the police car finally screeched to a halt in front of my house. Two officers stepped out, and I could see their eyes quickly scanning the scene. Karen's demeanor shifted again, like she was trying to flip the narrative one more time. She pointed straight at me, nearly shaking with frustration. "Officers, she's refusing to let me use her pool, and now she's threatening me with no good reason. I'm just trying to throw a nice party for my daughter." But before either officer could respond, the man turned to them, his voice calm but firm. "Gentlemen, I believe there's been a misunderstanding here," he said, making sure to catch their attention. He quickly explained that Karen had been acting without proper regard for boundaries, and that this wasn't a situation that needed police involvement. I felt a little relief, but I was still unsure where this was going. Then, as if on cue, the officer closest to Karen spoke. "We've received some reports from the neighbors about her behavior before. This isn't the first time Karen's made a scene over something like this. We'll take it from here." The man nodded once, then turned to Karen, his voice low but stern. "I told you this wasn't the way to handle things, Karen. You're lucky it hasn't gone further, but this will be the last time you involve me in one of your schemes." I froze. Schemes. The reality of the situation hit me hard. This wasn't just about a pool party. It was about Karen trying to manipulate and control everything in her life, including those around her. It seemed like this whole dramatic scene was part of some bigger pattern, and I was just one of her unfortunate targets.